All right, welcome back to the Sports Leader, and joining us, a familiar name if you're a Stanford fan. Dave Wyman played for the Cardinal, and he is the color analyst for the Seattle Seahawks. The showdown Saturday night at Levi's is going to be a good one. The Niners and the Hawks. The winner gets the 1 seed and a first-round bye in the NFC playoffs. And Dave's with us on the Yuma guest line to chop it up. Dave, how are you?
I'm doing great, man. I was just packing for this trip, which is the shortest one that we've had this year, and thinking, boy, it sure would be nice to not have to fly to Tampa Bay or Charlotte again.
Well, let's talk a little bit about your career before we get into the Hawks. I mean, you're a San Diego guy who played at Stanford and was a second round pick in the '87 draft, 45th pick overall. Played with the Seahawks in the '80s and early '90s. Finished up with the Broncos, and have been doing the color analyst work. Talk to us a little bit about your career. Who got you into football originally?
Well, yeah, I think, it was my brother, really. I mean, my brother and I, we actually both were born in San Diego, but then my dad was in the logging industry. So we were always in these really remote towns. And my brother and I, were really tight. He's 2 years older than me. He ended up going, first of all, we played together at Worcester High School in Reno, Nevada. But and then he was recruited and got a scholarship to Stanford. And so I got recruited my senior year by like Nebraska, Notre Dame, and UW and UCLA, and Stanford was always there. And I was like, yeah, I want to play with my brother. So we ended up playing together for 3 years at Stanford. And that was an awesome experience. And then, had a few setbacks in college, but including a dislocated knee that was pretty bad at the time, but made it through and got drafted in the second round by the Seahawks. And rest is history. I met my wife here. She was one of the Seahawks cheerleaders, and been married for 33 years, and just whole life is kind of taken on, and I really don't, I'm not super involved with Stanford football, but this is my team, the Seahawks. I've been working with them doing media stuff since 2004.
Well, you could have been doing the same role with the Niners, huh? I mean, I saw that you were traded to the 49ers,
Yeah.
But failed the physical because of a shoulder injury. And so that deal was nullified, and you wound up never being traded to the 49ers. Do you ever think about how life would have been different for you if you had passed that physical?
Well, the Niners probably wouldn't have had all those Super Bowl wins if I was there. No, I was there for like a day and a half, and it was pretty amazing. I mean, my rookie year was really tumultuous. I mean, I ended up having a shoulder problem, which ended up, me failing the physical. But also they got the Boz in the supplemental draft, Brian Bosworth. And so my agent, Marvin Demoff, one of the best, and the only reason he was my agent is because of Jack Elway, because that was John's agent, and he was the best in the business. So he told me, go in and tell Chuck Knox that you want to be traded. And I was like, what? And so I was very intimidated by Chuck Knox, and
Sure.
as were a lot of people. And I went and asked, and they got it done. And then, I was a 49er for like a day and a half. I had a jersey. I was number 59, and I started to run out on the practice field, and somebody came up and goes, whoa, hold on a second. You haven't passed your physical. And 24 hours later, I was on a plane back to Seattle. And even though they failed me on the physical, the next week I was running down on kickoffs for the Seahawks. So yeah, it was kind of it was really tough. I mean, that was a bad rookie year for me. So ended up having surgery at the end of the year, and then everything went pretty well here in Seattle, and then rode the free agency, the Plan B free agency, which we went on strike for in 1987. That was another bad thing that happened in 1987. We went on strike, but so the rest is history. Went to Denver for a few years, but then just ended up back here. And a friend of mine, a guy that I played with, Paul Moyer, and also Steve Rabel. Rabes was always a friend of mine. And those guys got me back into doing media stuff because I loved football, and I'd still be playing if I could. But that's sort of sort of short version to a long story, or maybe that's a long story.
It's a great story either way. It's interesting too. Did the trade? I mean, you were That's a weird thing. First of all, it's weird to be traded. Most people aren't traded. Most people never experience what it's like to be traded. But
Yeah.
what's it like to be traded and then brought back into the room of the team that traded you? And then it wasn't like you were there for 45 minutes. You were there for the next 5 years.
Yeah.
That must have been strange.
It was really strange. And, it's funny. My rookie year, Kenny Easley, who was on the team at that point, the awesome safety out of
Great
UCLA.
player. Just
Yeah,
died this year, I believe, right?
Yeah, he did. He did pass away just this year. So, but, he never spoke to me, as a rookie. That's kind of how it was back then. But when I came back, he was like, what in the heck happened? Like, he came over and he must have interviewed me for 15 minutes about like how that went down. And so to your point, yeah, I mean, that just didn't really happen. The trades, number one, and then, just the whole thing. The Niners actually wanted the Seahawks to sweeten the deal. And the GM at that time, Mike McCormick, just said, just send him back. I don't, I never wanted to trade him in the first place, and they wanted too much, and really the whole stipulation was, hey, if we do surgery on him and he's okay to play, then that's fine. But if he's not able to play, we want, I think it was like a second rounder instead of a fourth rounder or something like that. So yeah, it was very unusual at the time. And like I said, it was a rough rookie year for me.
Before we get to the Niners and the Hawks in this game Saturday night, you were next door neighbors with Boz when you guys were teammates with Seattle. What kind of guy was Boz? Because, I mean, what a great college player, but he really did try to tackle everybody up high. I mean, I don't remember him going low on anybody. He was up around the shoulders, and everybody remembers Bo Jackson running him over in a big, I think it was a Monday nighter.
Yeah.
But what was your recollections of the Boz? Because he was so well known in an era where linebackers and college players were not really well known. This guy had a national reputation, and it was the same year that Cornelius Bennett, I believe, was playing at Alabama. So you had Bennett on the outside, you had Boz on the inside, and these guys were like superheroes going into the draft that year.
Yeah, and Brian was the first one to really do that, like self-promote. And it was almost like WWE type of stuff, right? I mean, he had the haircut and the white Corvette and everything.
Right.
But
the SI article and the earring and the hair shaved on the side. Yeah. He really was like, I mean, nobody's ever been marketed probably since like that.
No, yeah, you're right. And it was just revolutionary what him and his agent, blanking on his agent, Gary. Anyway,
Wishard, maybe Gary Wishard.
Yes. Thank you. Gary Wishard. So, but here's the thing. So yeah, Brian and I really off the field, like when he was Brian, he was one of my best friends. But when he tried to be the Boz and, and I'd always give him crap, I'd be like, hey, I'm not one of your service people. Okay. I'm your neighbor and I'm your friend, but I'm not going to go for all this crap. I don't care about it. So, but yeah, I mean, as long as we were on that wavelength, we were good friends. And you know what? I still text him. Every once in a while, every time I see, whether it's an opposing, one time it was in Cincinnati, another time it was in New England, there's somebody with a Boz jersey. And so I always take a picture on my phone and send it to him. So, but yeah, he's a good friend. I mean, he was just an amazing college football player. But when he got in the NFL, he couldn't really take on blockers, and Brian wasn't a big guy, like I remember his shoes. I remember one time they were next to mine and I wear 14s and he was like 9.5 and like his hands weren't very big, but he was really fast and he could run around and make plays. And I think at Oklahoma, where he played, he just ran around. He never had to take on blockers, and I had to at Stanford. So I was a little bit of a step ahead there, but, yeah, it's too bad for him and for his career. He was really, really a dynamic player. And, when he came to Seattle, everybody, I would follow Brian around, and like wherever he wanted to go, he would go. If there was a line, to get in the club or whatever, he would go to the front, and I would just kind of tail along with him. Yeah, I mean, when we'd go on the road, people would do anything for him. Like he would call room service. And when he was my roommate, we're on the road. This is just a stupid story, but it just kind of speaks to what he was like. But he gets on the phone to room service, and they're like, "Oh, hello, Mr. Bosworth," and he's ordering all this stuff, and he goes, "What do you want, Dave? You want anything?" I'm like, "Yeah, get me some Junior Mints." He's like, "Yeah, can we get some Junior Mints up here?" Sure enough, the guy went over to the convenience store, got some Junior Mints, and brought them up. So yeah, I mean, he had that effect, and he was really a big deal, and it was fun hanging out with him. I didn't want to be part of the spotlight and everything, but I got to go all kinds of cool places. I went and lived with him one time for about 3 months down in. We were in Huntington Beach, right on the beach. He had this awesome condo and everything, and we'd work out during the year. I remember one time we went shopping, and so the first thing he did was goes to the beer aisle and pulls out like a 12-pack or whatever. And so then he just starts drinking beer both of us did, as we're shopping, and nobody paid attention to the fact that we were drinking while we were shopping. They were just like, "Oh my God, that's Brian Bosworth."
The boss.
Yeah. And that other guy. So,
Right.
yeah, it was, he had a lot of cachet, and, he was, he was a very interesting character, and I feel blessed having him as one of my friends.
Dave Wyman with us on the Yuma guest line. You'd be the perfect person to ask, because you were kind of a horse of a player. I mean, you're a big body guy. The old school linebackers wore the neck roll. They were 250. The guys ran in the 4.9s. If you ran in the 4.7s, you were fast. Matt Millen and these guys had these huge neck rolls. They took on guards. Now I'm looking at the linebackers, and the evolution of this particular position is so interesting. The Seahawks have Drake Thomas. He can't be more than 5'10". He's a smaller guy. The 49ers have some smaller, faster linebackers. It's crazy what this position has evolved into. Now, if you're running the 4.7, they'll get you the 4.7s. They'll isolate you in pass coverage, and they'll force you off the field. I mean, you really got to be like a 4.5 guy, and it's like the safeties of yesteryear are not as athletic as the linebackers of 2026. I mean, it's truly amazing. What do you think of the evolution of this position? It really has. The body types have changed dramatically in a short amount of time.
It really has. And I mean, just look at the shoulder pads that we wore back then. It's funny. Abraham Lucas, our right tackle, he's got like a neck roll thing going. And I love it, because he does look like one of those throwbacks from the 80s and 90s. But you're right about it. The evolution of, I was watching that kid Upton Stout, who looks like he plays up in the box. Same thing with Drake Thomas. And I actually told Drake in an interview one time, I said, "Well, you're short, but that's good, because when I got in the NFL, I wanted to be shorter because the leverage." Remember Sam Mills? Yeah. Sam Mills was like 5'9", and he was instantly, like, he was automatically loaded with leverage, like he was under everybody. And so that was the thing that you found out in the NFL, that it actually helped. But you're right. I mean, the speed, I think the fastest 40 I ran was in the Stanford gym on the basketball court, and I ran like a 4.56, and everybody was like, "Oh my God." But then I went to the combine and ran like a 4.7, 4.75. And, that was good enough. That was good enough to play in the NFL. And now it's just a totally different game.
Totally different game. Okay. You're watching Nick E-Man Worry. And we're talking about, if we want to talk about futuristic athletes, guys from 20 years from now, that's this guy. He's playing nickel. He's an unbelievable athlete. I mean, absolutely owned the combine. 6'3", 2.25, just his 4.3 speed, jumping ability. I mean, this guy is Superman, and he can play anywhere. How is McDonald utilizing him?
Well, he's utilizing him as the most versatile player I've ever seen. I mean, he is lined up at defensive end, and he's lined up in the backfield. I mean, so literally all three levels is where he is playing. And I got to say too, he is a great kid. I mean, he gets it that he's a rookie, but really smart. And, we talked to him after he blocked that kick against Atlanta. He blocked a field goal, and he was talking about how he reaches with one arm instead of two because one arm's longer than two. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, that kid, I know he's getting coached up and everything, but like he just gets it. And he's very physical. He had a great interview. We interviewed him on our show. And after he was drafted, and I said, would you rather have a big hit or, a takeaway? And he said, well, if we're playing the 49ers, I want it to be a big hit. And I'm like, yeah, you just instantly endeared yourself to everyone who was a Seahawks fan because, he understands, what the magnitude of that matchup. So, but yeah, I mean, he's just a really interesting player to watch.
What did McDonald see last year, Dave, in his linebackers? Okay, he starts the year, he's got Jerome Baker. He's got Terrell Dodson, and it's not like those guys are bums. Jerome Baker had some pretty good years with the Buckeyes. He was good with Miami, can run around, but he obviously didn't like those guys, and he moved him out. He traded for Ernest Jones. Jones has been a revelation ever since. Yeah. Tyrese Knight had some run last year. He's an incredible mover at linebacker. Now you've got this Drake Thomas from NC State on the weak side. He's, I don't even know what the hybrid safety linebacker. How would you describe, this Seahawk defense? It's number 2 in the league in points per game. They're, the Niners and the Seahawks really look at defense differently. The Niners invest in the front to the back. The Seahawks typically invest from the back to the front. And they've done that again with Julian Love in free agency, Devin Witherspoon in the draft, now Eman Worry. Job is a great story, Kobe Bryant. How talk to us a little bit about this defense and what stands out to you.
Well, I mean, I think for Dodson and Baker, by the way, Dodson, when he got, I think he was the one that got cut and we traded Baker. But when he got cut, he was like, hey, I thought I was playing pretty well.
Right.
He had a lot of tackles, but those guys weren't as physical on the inside as Ernest Jones is. And, believe it or not, same thing with Drake Thomas because they'll hit guards. They'll take people on. And I think that was the problem that was going on. And those guys just didn't get, how the defense works. But right now, I mean, the thing I think that you look at with the Seahawks is their front 7, but mainly those guys inside. Byron Murphy is ridiculous. I mean, we talked to him the other day. He's got 7 sacks. He leads the team, him and Leonard Williams. And those two guys, you just can't double team them. I mean, they love it. And Byron, the other day told me, he's like, I love the double teams, man. And he drops down to a knee every once in a while and he's immovable. So I think it really starts there. And then, you've got some linebackers that really know football and, they're really smart. They time up some of the blitzes that they run and stuff in the run blitz game. And it's just and that's when they took off. And I thought that was so interesting about Mike McDonald is that, a lot of times, same thing with Ryan Grubb, I thought they'd give him another year as the offensive coordinator, but he's very decisive. And when he doesn't like something, he's going to take action. And in the middle of the year, cutting a linebacker and trading one, especially when you went and picked those guys up in the offseason was kind of shocking. But it worked and he got the right guy in there. He's just a brilliant mind, Mike McDonald, as far as, and I think that's what makes this such a great matchup because the one man that scares me the most on the 49ers is Kyle Shanahan. Because, I don't know how you plug Mac Jones in and he goes 5-3 and throws for over 300 yards several times and just that system, it's going to be a great clash. So, but yeah, I mean, I think really it starts up front. And then they got guys like Jaron Reed, DeMarcus Lawrence, got him in the offseason. Uchenna always makes plays, Uchenna Nwosu. So that, that defensive line, I think, is where it all starts. But I'll tell you what, the best player, I think if you asked me to pick the best player in the NFL, it would be Devin Witherspoon. That kid he's ridiculous. Player. I mean, he is a great open field tackler. Like if he's in the open field, it's inevitable. He's going to make the tackle. And he's just so quick and so much energy, and he's not a big guy, and he'll hit you. I mean, he is an incredible player. So they've got some really good pieces, but a lot of it has to do with Mike's system.
I'll tell you, the guy that I love is Julian Love. I just think Julian Love. I mean, what are the New York Giants thinking, letting this guy get out of there? I mean, it's unbelievable how good he is. And against the Niners, he looks like he belongs in Canton. If you look at the numbers, the only area that seems like Seattle struggles is they don't defend the tight end all that well. What do you make of that? Because it's Kittle's had some success. He's obviously had a great year, but he's had some success against Seattle. He's been somewhat of a Seahawk killer. He's not 100%, but he's going to go in this game. Is there any reason why Seattle has struggled defending tight ends?
Yeah, nothing like specifically jumps out. I think, when they first came in here, all the linebackers were talking about how they when they play zone defense, they basically play like a matchup zone, where they're looking up guys. You drop to an area, and I think sometimes that doesn't get done, and so that's why they're a little bit vulnerable in the middle of the field. But I don't know that it's anything specific about that defense, but I'm sure if there's a weakness, Kyle Shanahan will find it. But by the way, he was a ball boy when I was playing in Denver and playing for his dad. So, but just a ton of respect for him. But yeah, I mean, I think sometimes they get away from that where they're not actually looking guys up when they drop to a zone, because nothing drives me nuts more than when you drop a defensive tackle and he's just back there 10 yards just covering a piece of dirt. I mean, that's just not how you play pass defense in the NFL nowadays. So I think that's probably part of the problem when they get exploited over the middle of the field.
Let's talk offense for a second. Darnold is, I think, been an upgrade on Geno. I definitely think Kubiak's been an upgrade on Grubb. There's more balance. Last year they threw it a ton. They ran it. They didn't run it well. This year they're more balanced as a offense, and Darnold I think is pretty good. But he also has turnovers, and he's had some issues with turnovers recently. What are you seeing with Darnold? What are you seeing with this offense that Clint Kubiak runs? We got Clint against Clay Kubiak. That's another little subplot to this thing.
I know, I was looking at those two guys side by side, and I'm like, did Gary have to put like a red dot on one of them to know which one was which?
Seriously, they're dead ringers for one another.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, so with Darnold, I think the best thing that he's done, like that Ram game, I think really helped him because he was really forcing the issue the first time we played the Rams, and gave up the ball in our own territory 4 different times and still held them to 21 points. But I think Sam was trying to push a little bit, and I think force the issue, and he's kind of learned to not do that. And for him to have the game that he ended up having against the Rams the second time, the win in overtime, he just found a way to not be affected by some of the bad plays. And I think in the past that's what's been the problem for him, and I think it was even in that first Ram meeting. But in the second one, something bad happens, something goes wrong. I don't know if you saw the play last week in Charlotte where he ends up, I thought it was a fumble actually, a forward pass, and they ruled it a fumble. And but he doesn't let that bother him. And I think in his past that's what's been the problem. I also think that there's a certain amount of criticism that he gets because of, kind of like Eli Manning, maybe his body language a little bit, maybe it's the look on his face or something where they think that he is getting overwhelmed. But I think he's kicked that. So I think that's probably the best thing that he's done. And I'll tell you what, the interceptions especially started coming, about that time of the first, Ram game. Before that, he was throwing some passes that were in some really tight windows. And, it was amazing how, and it was working out for him. Well, all of a sudden it just didn't, so, I think that's kind of part of it, because he was so amazing going up. Like he was 17 for 17 in that Commanders game. at halftime. So, and just making just some brilliant throws. And I think those just started to go away. That's kind of what happens in the NFL, that, people see that, they start covering a little bit tighter. You figure out, hey, you gotta have another layer of how you're going to cover a guy if he's throwing these dimes like he had been. So, but yeah, I mean, I think maybe the best thing that's happened for him is all of that adversity, and then he's handled it really well.
Dave Wyman with us on the Yuma guest line. A couple last thoughts before we let you go. JSN has had an incredible year. Jackson Smith and the Jigba has just been fantastic. I thought he was good at Ohio State. I didn't think he was this good. I mean, he's just been absolutely amazing. The only game where he hasn't really produced is the Minnesota game, but that was the game that Brosmer threw 4 picks, and they probably just didn't use him because they didn't need to use him. What is there anything that works against JSN? Robert Saleh was asked, hey, are you going to travel Demo Lenore or all over the field with him, who's the Niners' best cover guy? And he's like, probably not. We play a lot of zone, and it makes it complicated for everybody else. So they're probably not going to travel sides with JSN. But is there anything at all? Has anybody had any success slowing him down or bothering him at all?
Well, that Minnesota game you referenced, that was just, they were bringing guys off the edge, and it just, I don't know. I don't think it was anything that they did specifically other than just put a ton of pressure on Sam Darnold. And so, yeah, it was a rough day for him. I looked at that film specifically just because people were like, oh, there's maybe the magic potion there to shut down JSN. And it was just kind of like, well, he wasn't open on this one. And, he threw it to the tight end who was open. And there was a couple of times I saw that they double teamed him, but I didn't think that there was anything that you could say, okay, that's it, and he's a very interesting player. First of all, another just unbelievably nice kid. But when you look at him, and I've asked this question a number of times, it's like, what makes him so good? But, and I think there's a couple of things. One is, I think when he turns to look for the ball on the deep throws, he doesn't slow down. And, a lot of receivers, you do that, you turn, try to locate the ball, and you don't think about running. And he just continues to run through that whole transition. And then the other thing is he makes every route look the same at the top of the route. And so, you don't really know what he's going to run because, Michael Bennett asked this question when we were doing the preseason. He was like, look at you, man. You're not that big. You're not that fast. Like, what makes you so good? And I don't think he had an answer for it, but most of what we've heard from him is that he does try to sell every route so that it looks the same, and you can't really tell coming out of his break what he's going to do. But obviously he's got good speed, and he's got great hands, and his ball tracking ability is amazing. So yeah, I mean, he's the real deal, but it's not like he's built like DK Metcalf or anything like that. He's just he's kind of a normal sized human being that is just excellent at what he does. And one of the things that he said that I loved when he came in as a rookie, first of all, I'm going to interrupt myself. What in the world is going on at Ohio State where they are pumping out these ridiculous receivers? I mean,
exactly.
It's crazy. And they got 2 guys this year.
Carnell Tate's amazing. Smith, Jeremiah Smith. I mean, they're going to have a top receiver go in probably the top 10 in the next 2 drafts.
Right. Yeah. And then the other thing that's fascinating to me is that I think the most effective NFL quarterback that has come out of Ohio State has been Mike Tomczak, maybe. I mean, CJ Stroud right now, he's establishing his career, but anyway, yeah, now
it's not Stanford, that's for sure.
Yeah,
it's not Stanford.
Yeah, but one of the things that he said his rookie year, he said, my favorite part of catching a pass is that I actually think a lot of times in the back of my head that I might not make it, or I might not make this catch. And I love that sort of mystery. And I was like, wow, that was pretty deep for a kid that's just coming out of college. And, and I think everything is such a challenge to him, and he's such a competitor that, that's what makes him great.
It's funny. I mean, I mean, I know Jerry Rice pretty well from doing events with him, and there's no doubt in my mind that Jerry was motivated by fear, and fear can be an incredible motivator for sure. Two last ones before we let you go. Charles Cross not going to play left tackle; he's out. Josh Jones has been his backup. The former Arizona Cardinal was in Baltimore, but now he's dinged up, and there's a lot of talk that we may see Amari Kite, an undrafted rookie free agent who's played the right tackle spot behind Lucas, is going to start at left tackle. Is that indeed the case? And how do you expect Kite to fare?
Yeah, we saw him a little bit in the preseason, not a lot, but I mean, they're with offensive tackles, it's like, was it a disaster? Did he give up a bunch of sacks, or was he getting beat in the run game? And not really. I mean, you didn't really notice him, kind of like Josh Jones last week. Although Josh actually had a really good block on the 29-yard run that Charbonnet had, where he sealed off a couple of guys. So he's. I think he gave up a half a sack, but yeah, I mean, I'm hoping that's what they're going to do, and that's just the next guy up. But it helps that he doesn't have to block Bosa, so we appreciate that. But yeah, I mean, the John Benton, the offensive line coach, has done a really good job. He's turned around a guy like Anthony Bradford. Anthony Bradford's one of those guys that will have like 4 or 5 plays in a game where you're like, what's he doing? And then there's 4 or 5 where he one-handed shoved it, I think it was Ashawn Robinson, to the ground with his left arm in a game, in a running play against the Panthers last week. So he's, really, like, he'll make really, really good plays, and then there'll be some bad ones mixed in there. But John Benton, the offensive line coach, is a pretty good one. And by the way, this is why the Seahawks.
He was here with Shanahan.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. And that's the reason why at the beginning of the season, people were saying the over-under for wins for the Seahawks was going to be 7. And I think it settled at 8. But that was a total offensive teardown. I'm talking about the new offensive line coach. There was a new quarterback coach, new offensive coordinator, new quarterback. The receivers, you don't have Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf anymore. So, yeah, I mean, offensively, they came into this season like with a teardown, basically on that side of the ball. And, so I think they're still developing it. And I think it took them this long to get where they are in the run game. And so it's starting to look good.
Last one for you, Dave. We appreciate your time. Russell Wilson owned the Niners, right? He went 17-4. It seemed like every time they played, he would hold the ball for at least 10 seconds and one down and just kind of break the entire defense down. I can remember seeing him do it many, many, many times. And he was so great in the fourth quarter at putting games away. Yeah. He was just awesome. 17-4 against the Niners. And then he disappeared. Brock Purdy showed up, reminds me an awful lot of Russell Wilson. And now Brock Purdy's 6-1 against the Hawks. And has owned them and played very, very well. I think Seattle's the better team here. I really do. But I expect Brock Purdy to play really, really well, and he could be the equalizer. Give me you're a former defensive player and watch the game closely and have seen probably a ton of Purdy so far. What do you think? I mean, what stands out to you about Brock Purdy? Are you surprised that he's doing what he's doing?
No, not really. I mean, I think in the beginning, he looks like he's 12 years old. So that, right. Is always something. But, in the beginning, you're like, okay, this guy was Mr. Irrelevant and, but he's good. I mean, he's really good. And I don't think it's just the Shanahan offense. I think the one thing that stands out the most to me is that he's got some stones. I mean, he doesn't mind ripping it in the middle of the field. And that's a lot of defenses, and we were talking about this earlier, they think they have the inside of the field covered, but they don't. And I think that's where Shanahan's offense especially is particularly effective. So, and I like that he has the courage to throw it in the middle of the field. And so, yeah, I mean, he's just I think he's probably that kind of player, with most offenses. I don't think it's just the Shanahan offense that's making him as good as he is. But yeah, he's a very good quarterback.
Dave, safe travels down here. I'm sure you got lots of friends in the area still from your days at Stanford, and enjoy your trip. I would say good luck, but no Niner people actually want to say that, so we'll just say safe travels. But
Yeah.
thanks for jumping on the radio with us and breaking it down. We really appreciate your time, and I'm glad we connected. It was a really great segment. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, that was fun. Thanks for having me, man.
Dave Wyman, more straight ahead on the Sports Leader.